In this tutorial, we're going to go over how to create a drawing of the Titan 89L in Fusion 360. Let's first take a look at the Titans of CNC drawing, as we are going to use this as a reference. In our upper left-hand corner, we have our external thread data table, and this information can be found out of our Machinist Handbook. To the right of it, we have our front view, and our front view has a section view that we can see right here going from D to D. And notice over here, we've got our right-hand section view. Within our section view, we also have our detailed view of our threads, which can be found down here. Lastly, we have an isometric view, and it also has a detailed view. This detailed view states what our major, minor, and pitch diameters are. However, we are not going to be creating this detailed view because it is unnecessary for our particular drawing. We're going to jump over to Fusion 360 and create this drawing now. I'm over in Fusion 360, and the very first thing that we need to do is we need to tell Fusion where the front of our part is. Currently, our front location is actually this perspective. However, the print that we just referenced off of said that this face over here is our front view. If you look up at our view cube, this is actually indicating in my drawing as the left view. To change this, what we need to do is orbit our part around and kind of get that particular face facing you. Then we're going to orient our part so it's nice and square in our workspace by clicking on the view cube. Afterwards, we're going to right click on the view cube, go down to set current view as, and then over to front. Notice our view cube has updated and now is showing this as our front view. Afterwards, we need to save our part. And now we can change our workspace. We're going to go up to our toolbar, over to Design, and down to Drawing from Design. The very first thing it's asking us is, do you want everything in the modeling workspace to be a part of your drawing? And we do. We are creating a new drawing here, and the template that we are going to be using can be seen on how to create it in another video. That video is how to create a title block template. And then press OK. The very first view that Fusion 360 is going to land for us is our front view. In our pop-up window here, we're going to turn our style to visible edges. We're going to change its scale to a 2:1 scale. And then we're going to turn full length tangent edges on. And we're going to land our front view in the upper center portion of our sheet. Afterwards, press OK, and we have our front view. The next view that we're going to add in is our right section view. We're going to go up to our toolbar where it says Drawing Views and down to Section View. We're going to click on the top of our front view, and we're going to gesture down to the center here. And this is very important to make sure that you get your section lines on center. That way all the geometry is shown correctly. And now we're going to drag our mouse up and off of the part, left clicking and dragging our mouse down off the part, and left click again and press enter on the keyboard. We're going to drag our mouse over and left click again, landing that location of that section view. Our section view also has a detailed view in it. We're going to go back up to Drawing Views, this time down to detail view. We're going to click on our section view here, and then we're going to put our mouse cursor kind of in the center of our threads, left click, and drag out our detail circle. And if you make a mistake right now, don't be afraid to just save it as is, as you can alter it after the fact. So we're going to create our detail circle about our threads, and then move our drawing, our view, right down to this location, and press OK. The last view that we're going to add in is an isometric view. We're going to go to Drawing Views, down to Projected View. Again, we're going to reference off of our parent view. However, this time we're moving our mouse cursor down to the bottom left corner, and that will give us this isometric view. We're going to left click there and press Enter. Once we have our view landed, we're going to change it from a wireframe into a shaded part by double left clicking on it, going up to our pop-up window and clicking on the icon for shaded with visible edges, and then hit close. Now that we have all of our views on our sheet, we're going to start adding in some dimensions. First dimension that we're going to place is going to be the diameter of the outside of our front view here. So D on the keyboard will enter us into dimension mode. And we're going to click on the outermost portion of our circle. Be mindful of that chamfer diameter there. And then right click and press OK. What I want you to notice here is the way that our measurements are stated. Currently our measurements are to the 10,000ths column, but we want them to be stated all the way to our thousandths column. To change this, we need to go down to the bottom center of our workspace to our annotation settings. We're going to click on that and check the box next to display trailing zeros. And then we're going to change our linear dimension precision to 123, which is our thousandths column. Now that we've changed our dimensions, we're going to add in this chamfer right here. We're going to go up to text with the leader, and then we're going to click on this circle here, dragging our mouse up, and we are going to type in chamfer 45 thousandths at 45, and then the degree symbol, we're going to enter that out of our pop-up window, and then we're going to close that out. Now that our front view is fully defined, let's take a look at our section view. Before we start adding in our measurements on this, we need to add in some construction geometry. We're going to do so by going to our toolbar and go down to center mark. The locations that we're going to center mark are the locations of these radii here. We're going to click on both these radii so we can reference off of those edges. The next thing that we need to do is we need to find an intersection line between this line and this line that kind of avoids this radius here. We're going to go back to geometry and down to edge extension. The first line we're going to choose is this line, and then we're going to choose this other line here. And notice now we have a reference point to snap off of. The next geometry that we're going to add in is a center line. We're going to go to geometry and down to center line. our center line needs to run down the center of our part here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reference off of this horizontal line here on this side of the part, and then the horizontal line on the opposite side of the part. Afterwards, press right click and press OK. Here's our center line now. I'm going to grab the end of my center line and drag it over to the end of my part. Now I'm going to repeat this on the front of our part. When you're dragging it to the front of the part, you have to make sure that you are referencing off of an endpoint, because we are going to be using that center line to snap our datum location to. Now that you have your center line in place, we're going to go up to our dimensions and then down to ordinate dimension. We're going to snap our datum right to that intersection of our center line in the front of our part and drag our mouse out. We're going to drop another 0 location on the front of our part, referencing the end point off of the front of the part, like so. Afterwards, right click and press OK. I'm going to change the precision of our 0 locations here by double left clicking on these. And in our pop-up window, change these to 0. Now that I have my datum landed and I have my 2 0 locations, now we're going to start adding in some of our dimensions. Back to ordinate dimension. And we're going to start referencing this intersection point here. I'm going to move my mouse up to the extension line of my 0 location and bring it down. Notice I have this green construction line appear. That will enable us to have all of our measurements in alignment. I'm going to place this one here, and then I'm going to reference the center location of those circles. And then the edge of our part. Now that we have our vertical dimensions laid out, we're going to start laying out our horizontal dimensions the same exact way. Coming off of the center location of that circle, then this edge right here, then this intersection point right here, this other edge, the center location of this circle, the end of our flange, the back side of our thread relief, and the end of our overall part. So very quickly, you can add in all these dimensions using the ordinate dimension feature. Now that we have these dimensions laid out, we're going to start stating some of our other measurements that are on here. We're going to take a look at the top of our part and go to dimensions, down to diameter dimension. And we're going to click on this radius here and drag our mouse up and over, kind of like this. And notice it gives us this nice kind of extension line coming off our radius. Afterwards, we're going to press D on the keyboard for dimension mode. And we're going to click on the bottom of this radius here and drag our mouse up like this. Afterwards, we're going to clean up some of this workspace. Right click, press OK. This 120 thousandths diameter circle, there's two of these features here. So I'm going to double left click on this. I'm going to come to the end of this bracket and I'm going to type in typical 2x and then the close button. My measurements are overlapping each other, so I'm going to click on it and drag an extension line up, better organizing my workspace. The next thing that we are going to dimension is our hole going through our part. D on the keyboard. And this time we're going to measure off of this horizontal line to this horizontal line here. And then click again. Afterwards, right click, press OK. And we're going to drag this line over and try to get it off the part as best as you can. You may have to drag it off the part like this. We'll drag ours up here kind of like this. I'm going to move this over just a tad to get it away from that drill point, like so. Afterwards, we're going to update this information. We're going to double left click on this. We're going to move our cursor in front of the bracket and insert a diameter symbol. Then we're going to move our cursor to the behind the bracket, space bar, and then 600 thousandths, and then the GD&T symbol for depth. We're going to hold down Shift and Enter, giving us a return, and then type in 140 degree drill point. So what that means is when they actually make that part, they're going to be using a carbide drill with a 140 degree included angle, and that will cut that tip angle right there. It's a good time to kind of move your measurements around. As you start adding things start to move on you. So I'm going to move some of my stuff around. That way it's a little bit easier to read and comprehend. Like so. Now that we have that dimension stated, we're going to come in and reference our threads now. We're going to use a text with a leader line, and we're going to click on this front edge here and drag out our leader line. This time we're going to indicate that these are 3/8 16 unified course. Shift Enter. These threads need to go down 350 thousandths. Minimum depth. And then close that out. While we're here, I'm going to take this text box right here and drop this down a little bit, giving our view a little bit more breathing room. Now that our section view is all fully defined, we're going to jump down to our detailed B here. I'm going to click on it and kind of move it over a little bit. The very first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to change the size of where it says detailed B. I'm going to double left click on it, highlight it, and I'm going to change the height of our font to 100 thousandths and then close that out. And then I'm going to move this up a little bit and get it a little bit closer to our part. Now that we have our dimensions in place, or our view in place, we're going to add some dimensions. D on the keyboard. We're going to zoom in here to the bottom of our thread relief. We're going to click on this horizontal line, and then zoom up here, and click on this horizontal line, and then click in the center. The next thing that we're going to dimension is our major diameter of our threads. We're going to come into the crest of our thread on one side and then click on a crest of another thread on the other side, like so. We're going to reference this corner radius here by clicking on the radius and dragging our mouse up. Now that we have our dimensions in place, we're going to pull them off of our part so we can read them a little bit easier. We're going to start with these here. We're going to click in the center and grab this handle and drag our measurement out. And then this measurement here, drag it out. Like so. I'm going to move my detail B. I'm going to move this over here and get this out of the way. These two measurements here, we're going to alter these a little bit. I'm going to double left click on here, go in front of this bracket. We're going to insert the diameter symbol, go behind the bracket, and we're going to put some clarification of how wide that thread relief is. And then same thing, we're going to do the same over here with our major diameter, insert a diameter symbol, and then insert our thread length. Afterwards, again, you can reorganize this as you see fit. We're going to come up to this radius up here. We're going to alter it. This radius cannot be anything larger than that amount. So we're going to type in max and typical 2 times. We're going to call out this chamfer on the lead of our thread. This particular chamfer on the lead is going to be at 45 thousandths at 45 degrees. So we're going to add in a leader line here and drag our mouse up. We're going to type in chamfer 45 thousandths, 45 degrees. typical 2 times. Notice that our text box is running a little long here. I'm going to hit Shift Enter and add a return onto our text box. Now that our detailed view is all done, I'm going to jump back over to my section view here. And I'm going to change the font size on this because this is a little overwhelming. I'm going to change its height to 100 thousandths and then drag that up a little bit. That way it's less overwhelming. Now that all of our views are fully defined, we're going to jump up here to the upper left-hand corner and add in a table. Up in our toolbar, we're going to go to Tables, down to Table. And in our pop-up window here, we're going to choose Empty Table for our reference. And then we're going to snap our table to the upper left-hand corner, like so. Once we snap it to the upper left-hand corner, we need to click in one of these cells, highlighting the cell here, and we're going to delete our columns down so we only see one column. Afterwards, we can close this window out, and we're going to click in the first cell here, and we're going to type in external thread data, half 13, unified course, class 2A. And then before we close this out, we're going to highlight all this and bold it, and then close it out. We're going to open up our table here so we can fit more information into it by dragging our mouse over, like so. We're going to click in cell number 2 and type major diameter here, and we're going to change its size to 100 thousandths, and then also we're going to bold that. We're going to go into cell number 3, type in max, and then the diameter of 498 thousandths 5/10. We're going to change our height to 100 thousandths, and we're going to change our justification to middle left, and then close it out. Cell number 4, we're going to type in minimum, 487 6/10. Same thing, change our height and change our justification. Third cell, mean, 493 1/10. Change our height, change our justification. Now that we've ran out of rows, what we need to do is go back to row number 5, and we can hit Tab and add a couple rows. We're going to jump back into cell number 6 and type in pitch diameter. Change our height, bold this up, and change our justification. Cell number 7, max, 448 5/10. Change its height and close it out. Pitch diameter for minimum, 443 5/10. change its height, close it out. We need a couple more cells. So we're clicking back in that original cell number 8 and just hitting tab. This time we're going to type in minor diameter, change its height, and bold it up. And change its justification. Click in cell 10. Change its height. And lastly, cell 11. And change its height again. And then we can close that out. So now that we have our thread data, we can kind of move some things around in our sheet here to kind of better use our space up. That way things don't look all kind of scrunched together. So all I did is I kind of moved my front view around. I can click on this detailed view here, move that over a little bit, just to give it a little bit more breathing room. I'm going to take my isometric view and just kind of drag that over too. Before we're done, we're going to take a look at our title block and update it. We're going to jump down here where it says material. I'm going to double left click on the lines that make up our title block. We're going to click in this blue attribute where it says material and type in 6061 T6 aluminum, and then jump over to our revision block and type A in there, and then press OK. This is a good opportunity. Double check your print and make sure everything is defined on here. And this concludes our tutorial on how to create a drawing for the Titan 89L.